Well, hello there, good people. It's Sharon again. This one I'm doing, some people might like it, some may not have the interest. But I'm doing it because a friend of mine asked me to. He's been getting into some debates about some certain automotive theories, which aren't theories if you know the facts behind it, but most people don't. There's even quite a few technicians, not taking anything from them, that don't really know. So for those of you who don't know, first of all, yeah, I got this covered up because I'm wearing a work shirt, and where I'm working presently has nothing to do with this, and I'm not going to say yay or nay. Am I sitting in a vehicle again? Well, yeah, seems to be convenient for me. It's quiet, etc. It's not my vehicle, but it'll do. Okay? For those of you who don't remember, yeah, I'm an old lady and I don't appear this way. But you have to remember, I have over 50 years of repairing and teaching motor vehicles. Quick rundown. I am an Automotive Service Excellence, ASC, Master Auto, Master Truck, Master Paint and Body, Alternate Fuel, Undercar, Advanced Performance, Hybrid, and Alternate Fuel Certified Tech. There's fewer than 1,000 people with all those certifications in the entire country ever. And I used to teach this stuff. So I got a pretty good idea what I'm talking about. If you want to argue about it, leave me some notes and argue. I'll be glad to answer. However, I'm going to simplify it a bit, keep it a little bit brief for what it is. The question is about octane in your fuel for your engine. Some people think, well, I put the best fuel in. It's the most expensive. That doesn't mean it's the best for your vehicle. It might be, but probably not, because most cars and trucks do not require a high octane fuel. Most of them require low octane. Well, I'll put it in anyway because it's got all the additives and it gives me the extra protections, and most of the low octane fuels have pretty much all of that too. Because if they don't, your injectors, your cylinder, your spark plugs, everything could get filthy and the thing would run terrible. So they all have some cleaners and stuff. Is it enough? Well, no, it can't be that strong all the time without risking some damage to some fuel systems. So once in a while, putting a good fuel system cleaner in the tank, a good injection cleaner, maybe once every time or every other time you change the oil, is a very good idea. It's good maintenance. Might save you a lot of money down the road. Might not. Okay, so there's one thing. However, I'm going to get a little scientific here and try to keep it simple at the same time. There's a big difference between temperature and heat. Two entirely different things. And when somebody says, how warm is it? You're talking temperature. How long is it going to take to warm up this room? Now you're talking heat. The example I give my students, if you take a torch designed for cutting through plate steel and you light it up and you adjust it properly, the tip of the burns is about 9,000 degrees. But if you look at the vent coming on the ceiling of that classroom or the register at your house, it's maybe 130, 140 degrees. Now you can put a piece of steel down there next to that register all day long. It's not going to cut through it. The torch will. But if you're trying to heat that whole room up with the torch, I hope you got a good coat and some blankets, because it's not going to do it. It doesn't have the volume of heat. Okay? That's volume. Intensity is the temperature. There's a huge difference between the two. And that comes into play with fuel. Here's the weird thing. Oh, I'm going to put some hot fuel in it, high octane. Actually, it's not. It's colder. It burns colder and slower with high octane than it does with regular or low octane. Low octane burns hotter and faster. Very, very different characteristics than what you would expect. So how can high octane possibly make it run better? Well, in some engines it doesn't. But if you have a higher compression or different designs in the engine, it can. Heat and temperature react differently in different situations. If you would hold your hand up, now don't do this, okay? And take a lighter and go under it. If you did it quick enough, give away my secrets here. If you did it quick enough, it would not burn your hand. If you do it slower, it'll burn the crap out of you. Because one way, you're getting the same temperature, but not much heat because you didn't expose it for long. The other way, you're exposing it for a much longer period of time, so even at the same temperature, you collect a lot more heat and you're going to get burned. Don't do it. Because you do it too slow, it's going to hurt. And you're going to say, well, Sharon told me to do that. No, Sharon told you not to do that. Have I done it? I've done it as a demonstration in a classroom. But I'm not telling you to do it, because if you do it wrong, you're going to get hurt. I don't want you hurt. Nobody wants to get hurt. Burns don't heal well. Takes a while. But it makes a big difference. And when that fuel lights inside your engine, if it burns for a short period of time and burns very hot, it heats up the air. Here's the weird thing. Fuel does not push your pistons down. Heat does. Superheated expanding air. So if your engine's made for regular octane and it goes and you get a big fast flame, it's going to heat up that air and it's going to expand and it's going to push down the piston. However, if you have high octane fuel, it's going to burn for a longer period of time, but it won't be as hot. That's moving the lighter slow. You're going to get more heat buildup, but the temperature is not as hot. Because you get more heat buildup, you get more expansion. You get more pressure, you get more power. If the engine's designed for it. Other designs, that doesn't help. It makes it run worse. It can be hard to start in the morning. It can hesitate and bog. You can get terrible mileage if you're putting a high octane in a low octane engine. But guess what? If you do it the other way around and you put low octane in a high octane engine, it's not going to burn properly. It's not going to heat properly. It's not going to work well. Some engines have what's called a knock sensor. And if you have the wrong fuel in, it can fix it. Okay? It changes the engine timing and injection quantities and things like that. And the car may run perfectly fine. But it won't have quite the performance that it would have otherwise. Most people don't notice the difference. So some cars, particularly upper-end cars or performance cars, are equipped that way. Some economy cars are, believe it or not, but they all have different design features, and unless you're an engineer and you're studying it, yeah, it's not going to make a lot of sense. However, it does do that. Now, one salesperson will say, oh, well, I have my whatever kind of car it is, and I put 89 octane in it, giving away my secrets again. I put 89 octane in it and it ran better. Well, it might. And maybe you'll go up to 91 octane and it'll run better. And it might. But if I have one, I've been using 89 and I go down to 87, maybe I can't tell the difference. Maybe I can. Maybe it doesn't run quite as good. So you may want to go up 1 octane button on the pump, which is usually 2 octane points, sometimes 3. And you may get better performance and better idle and things like that. And if the car is happier there, use it. If it's not, quit it. Go back to the cheaper stuff and it can run better. I've proven that to several people different times by actually taking fuel out of their tank, putting a different fuel in it, and have them drive the same car, the same way, the same conditions, and they can't believe the difference. Sometimes it doesn't matter. I used to have an old 91 Escort with a little 4-cylinder and a 5-speed. It didn't care. For a while, one of the companies had an 86. I said it wrong again. Okay. Yeah, 86. I said it right. An 86 octane, where a regular is usually 87. It didn't care. It ran fine. I put 91 in it one time. It didn't care. It ran fine. Sometimes the way it runs is one thing, the mileage it gets is another. So you might go from an 89 up to a 91 or a 92, and it runs a little better on the higher octane, but it might get worse fuel mileage. So if you're tracking a mileage and you lose mileage, but it runs okay on the cheaper one, it's no race car, maybe you'll be happy with that. Maybe you'll say, hey, okay, I'm going to get better fuel mileage, I'm going to save a few bucks, and I'm going to use the lower octane. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's running well. Now, if you put a higher octane in, and your mileage stays the same, and it runs the same, why are you spending more money to get the same results? So sometimes you have to experiment a little bit. There is no one answer. You could have 10 cars made identically, and 8 of them run better on 89 octane. One of them might run better on 91 octane. One of them might do better on 87. And it's not just the octane, sometimes it's the brand. You might be getting 87 octane from 6 different places. You could have, I won't mention names, but you could have multiple companies selling you the same octane, but with different additive packages, they might run different. I used to have a 66 Pontiac Grand Prix with a 389 Performance, a big old AFB carburetor. I was a lot younger. It loved one particular company's high test fuel better than anything. The other companies, it ran pretty good on the high test, but not quite as good as this one. One time I thought I'd put some 87 in it and see what it did. That was a nightmare. That's the most extreme case I ever saw. It took me 10 minutes to start it in the morning. Had to let it run a couple of minutes before it would move. Couldn't get it over 60 miles an hour on a bet and a prayer. It got about 2 miles a gallon on that tank of gas. And then I filled it up with the regular fuel that it loves, and it did a lot better, but it wasn't quite right yet. The tank after that, it ran fine. So my Escort did one thing, and the old Grand Prix did something entirely different. You don't know unless you experiment. If you're happy using the cheaper fuel and the car runs okay and you don't have problems, keep using it. You're not out being Joe Racer. Yeah, I know some of them are going to back it up and try to see what that is. Oh well, too bad. I've been Josephine Racer a couple times in the past, but I behaved myself. Those guys with blue lights, they're not kind about things like that. It gets expensive quickly. I don't recommend doing things like that. So what's best? If you don't know and you don't want to experience, grab the owner's manual or look it up online and see what the darn thing says it's supposed to have in it and put that in. And quit arguing with everybody, thinking you are the expert and you know more about it and one answer fits all vehicles, because it doesn't. When all else fails, read the instructions. Well, there you go. Just a thought. You have a nice day.